alaikum, everybody. At 11:15 a.m. on the 22nd of July, which obviously was yesterday, the police executed the search warrant under the provision on Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971. The search initially centered around a garage on the ground floor, which is next door to where our building is located. And the police entered into the building and apparently found firearms, and they secured the firearms by calling members of their firearms division. After finding no drugs within the garage premises, the officer in charge, Sergeant Burgess, noticed that there were closed shutters on the adjoining premises, and he took it upon himself to enter the premises, which is Muhammad Mosque, in search for drugs. Sergeant Burgess and his officers forced the shutters to the mosque and smashed it in, and then smashed the door and proceeded into the mosque. Sergeant Burgess maintained before entering into the property he had no idea that the building was used as a mosque, although there is a large sign on the side of the building and a letterbox clearly marking Muhammad Mosque number 1. The sergeant informed us that when he reached to the top of the stairs of the building, it was at that stage he realized that this was a house of worship. The sergeant then instructed his men to proceed with the search for drugs and not to force any locked doors of any rooms that are locked. I received a call approximately 11:30 and obviously proceeded down to find out exactly what was taking place. And Sergeant Burgess informed me that he had reliable evidence that the address number 1 to 5 Inton Road was being used as a cannabis factory. They said they were unable to comment any further regarding the intelligence that they had received. The search took place from 11:15 to 11:55 a.m. It was fully explained to the sergeant and the officers who obtained the warrant that Brixton Police and other intelligence agencies in this country are fully aware that the Nation of Islam premises are situated at 1 to 5 Hinton Road in Brixton. The sergeant went on to say that he didn't realize that this was a house of worship, so he directed his officers not to retreat, but only to go into any rooms that were locked. He then directed them only to go down corridors towards the toilets and fire exits, and under their sense of smell to determine whether or not drugs were on the property. The sergeant has said that he has spoken to Inspector Dornan, who is the most senior officer that he could speak with, and informed him of what occurred at Muhammad Mosque. At 7 p.m. at Muhammad Mosque yesterday evening, Mr. Paul Wilson, who's a superintendent, Safer Neighborhood and Community Cohesion Officer, and our great brother David McFarlane from the Black Police Association, both came to Muhammad Mosque and on behalf of Brixton Police Station apologized for the action that was taken unreservedly. A meeting was arranged to meet with Nick Effelgrave, who is the Chief Superintendent and Borough Commander of Lambeth. I met with him and he was very apologetic. He said he was very concerned and it appeared that there had been a terrible mistake, and he deeply regretted and apologized for what has happened. And I want to read to you the letter that was written to the Nation of Islam by the commanding officer of this borough. It reads, "Dear Minister Hilary, thank you for taking the time to meet with me this morning to discuss the extremely unfortunate event of yesterday, when my officers mistakenly entered your mosque in Hinton Road. I would like to apologize unreservedly to you for the upset and distress that this entry has understandably caused. I would also like to make it clear that the intelligence that led to officers to search the adjoining premises was in no way connected with the Nation of Islam, your mosque, or any of its members. As I explained during our meeting, the officers concerned were executing a search warrant that related to an adjoining premises and mistakenly believed that the door to your premises was part of the building they were searching. On entering it, it became clear to the officers that they had made a mistake and they left. Ensuring that you were notified, I know that you attended the mosque shortly thereafter, spoke with the officers at the scene. I am informed, and I think you confirmed the fact that there was no persons present in the mosque at the time that it was forced. I can confirm that a formal complaint has been recorded and that the full circumstances of the incident will be investigated and all necessary steps taken to deal with any error made. Once again, please accept my sincere apology for causing you and your congregation unnecessary distress. Now, this apology was made with sincerity as far as I am concerned. And we accept the apology that has been given to us by the head of the borough. However, as I discussed with the head of the borough, it's one thing for you to be in charge of such a big division as Lambeth is and the policing of the streets here in Lambeth. The real challenge is for the rogue policemen who are under your charge to come in line with your sentiment. If you are in charge, but those who leave the police station leave thinking they are the authority and thinking that they can take the law into their own hands, then you will become an apologist for a rebel group. And this is why our young brothers are stopped and searched every day on these streets and convicted in magistrate courts for crimes that they didn't commit. And a small group who do commit the crime, the whole community of young black people are scapegoated for the effects just of a few. So we are asking for the superintendent to make sure that a training program is put in place so that when the officers leave this building, that they leave this building trained and respecters of the chain of command. And before they kick down someone's door and enter into premises with guns in their hands, that they check with their commanding officer to make sure that what they are doing is right and exact. We want the police to know, and we want them to publish to us, which they said that they will, the actions that have been that will be taken for the sergeant who led a team of police into a building that he had no right being in. None at all. This is a breach of his chain of command. And anybody who breaches a chain of command must be severely reprimanded. So we look forward for accountability now for those who break their own law that they are sworn to uphold. We don't have an axe to grind against the police. We thank them for what they do in sincerity. But that rogue element that has infiltrated the police, we want them to be apprehended, and we want them to be given their marching orders. And we want those kind of disciplinary acts to be published so that the black community will know that the best and the finest that Brixton have are walking our streets and will handle our people with care. But anybody who knows the followers of the Honourable Louis Farrakhan know that the Nation of Islam is a drugs-free community. You cannot be in the Nation of Islam even if you smoke a cigarette. If someone brought a pound or a kilo of crack cocaine to Muhammad Mosque, the Muslims, we will have no use for it. We will bring it right here to Brixton Police Station and hand it in to where it needs to be handed in. Because we don't have no use for drugs. We don't have no use for alcohol. We don't have no use for cigarettes. What we have use for is knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and a higher civilization that God has commissioned us to build and to raise our people to a high level of civility. An apology has been made. We accept the apology, and we will leave in peace, showing each other love. Assalamu alaikum.
said he was